everybody, this is the Wild Ass Podcast, and I am your host, Wild Ass Craig. This is episode 35, and in this episode, I get to introduce all of you to Tim Dickerson. Out of Salem, Oregon, he reached out to me back in February of this year regarding the Hoka Motorcycle Challenge, fundraising, and general questions just preparing for such a big event. In getting to know Tim, he seemed to be on the right track early on, so I asked, hey, why don't we just get you on the show? So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Craig. It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you. It was really cool when you first reached out. I don't remember if this is as clear in your memory, but I am always flattered when people reach out to me to talk about the show and to find out that I have listeners. It's so cool. So thank you for reaching out and making us connect.
Oh, absolutely. And I've learned a lot from your show for Hoka wise and hearing about the people that have come before me in the Hoka and are continuing still today to do it.
Yeah, it's been cool. And I think that was part of the very first conversation we had. I think you reached out and then there was a couple days of bouncing back and forth trying to get in touch. And you're like, yeah, you're so slow at responding. By the time you called me, I've gotten all the answers by just listening to your show. Or something like that.
wasn't quite like that, but something along those lines.
So this, I'm going to assume, is this your first podcast? You've been on one before?
For the most part, I was invited to pop on live for a hangout on the V-Twin Life with Denver Woods. I was only on for, I don't know, about 10, 15 minutes because I was kind of in between. He's like, hey, you want to jump on? I was like, oh, sure. All right, let's do it. Never done this before, but let's go.
How long ago was that?
I'd say about 2-3 weeks ago, something along those lines.
Okay, well, then that's me confessing then, because I am about a month behind on my podcast listening. I'm that guy that listens to them chronologically, so I haven't heard yours yet. So my apologies. I didn't know you'd been on a podcast before. Look at that. You have no reason to be nervous now.
Yeah, it wasn't one of his milepost podcasts. It was just kind of the jumping on live and, hang out and BS on YouTube kind of thing. So it wasn't a milepost, but he did say after that, like, hey, we got to get you on a milepost. I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, whatever. I'm easy.
Easy. Other than just getting our schedules put together, you're out on the West Coast, Salem, Oregon, I believe, is right? That's what
yeah, just north of there, yeah.
So just north of Salem, Denver's in Seattle. That's a little joke we always have going on. So yes, Babyface Woods out of Seattle. You saw that, you know how he got the Babyface name, right?
No.
He did,
but I'm extremely curious.
Yeah, he did a fundraiser, his Monsters Over Mountains, and part of the deal
when he
was
shaved his beard.
Yeah, he looked like a baby face.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was a huge difference.
So
some people shave their facial hair, and it's just like, okay, yeah, all right. And then he did. It was like, holy crap, it's a whole different guy.
That was hilarious. We got to get you to do that if we raise enough money, because you're about as bearded as he was. Maybe we can get your wife on board, huh?
No, it's funny. After that happened, I was kind of like poking fun, with my wife, talking about it. I was like, I can't believe he shaved his beard, it's crazy. And she goes, what, you wouldn't do it, for the last, little bit of chunk of change for a fundraiser? I'm like, nope. Nope. Beard's not going away.
Well, we have found the line then for Tim that he will not shave his beard for any amount of money. So that's a big statement. Maybe somebody's going to challenge you on that.
I anticipate it, I'm sure.
So you talk a little bit about your wife. She sounds pretty cool. Tell us about your family.
My family is 6 kids. That's right. 6 kids and my wife. We are a combined household. So she came with 3, I came with 2, and then we had 1. So we've got quite the Brady Bunch going. And she and I had our first ride together, actually in Vegas, the weekend that we got married. I've been riding for about 15 years, and I was in between bikes, but she and I flew down to Vegas and, just have a weekend in Vegas kind of thing. And I said, well, hey, why don't we go rent a Harley? And the only time she had ridden before was on, dirt bikes, and she had some bad experiences and wasn't too fond of the idea, but she was kind of hesitant, but eventually said, okay, we're in Vegas, why not, And so that was her first ride, and we ended up getting married. There was no plan to do it. We were stone cold sober, Because that's always a question. And we ended up getting married that weekend in Vegas. And the following weekend, COVID hit. And, everything shut down. So had we been, a few days later or the following weekend, who knows if we would have been married or not. It was just, the timeline of things, and it all worked out. But our kids range from just under 2. She turns 2 in a couple weeks, and our oldest is 12.
That's crazy. That's such a cool story because, yes, you answered all of my questions before I even asked them regarding getting married in Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great story, too. And, for me, it means a lot the way this all transpired because, motorcycles are a big part of my life. And we were down in Vegas. We're at Treasure Island. Okay. We were wandering around, checking out gift shops, gambling a little bit here and there. And we went into Treasure Island. There was one particular gift shop we went into, and we're just perusing what was on the shelves, and she happened to see this little jewelry stand thing on the counter. She's checking out rings or whatnot, and she's like, "Oh man, that one's really pretty." It was just like black gold with like a purple gem in it. Favorite color's purple, and she's like, "That's really pretty." I was like, "Oh yeah, it really is." And so we were done in the gift shop, and she's like, "All right, I'm gonna go hit the restroom, and then I'm gonna find a machine." So I was like, "All right, yeah, I'll catch up with you here in a second." So I bumped back into the gift shop, and I go buy that ring that she was looking at, and I just stuff it in my vest pocket, and I'm saving it for later, So later that night, we decided, hey, let's go ride the strip, and I think it would be excellent. We got all the lights going, just cruising down the strip, and so we hop on the bike. We were staying at Excalibur, so if you ever been to Vegas, you know that Excalibur's damn near on the end, yep. Right? So you got pretty much the whole strip to ride. And we got to around, where was it? I don't know, the Bellagio, somewhere around there at that point. She was on the passenger. We were riding in motion down the strip. I reach in my pocket. I pull out the ring. I kind of do like one of those quarter turns when you're looking at your passenger. And, I asked her to marry me. And she was, without any hesitation, yes. And that was pretty awesome. We were on our way to the Bonanza, the biggest gift shop in the world, or whatever they call themselves. And we stopped there, and she was just still all giddy and in awe of what just happened. And I was making some phone calls. Now, a little backstory on that: these phone calls that I was making, the whole time that we were going down there. And while we were there, people were joking, our friends, family, or whatever. Now, don't go down there and get married, and oh yeah, you guys are going down there just to get married, huh? Right? Yeah. So leading up to this, we'd see a chapel and be like, hey, we could just go pop in there and go get married, So it was kind of this ongoing joke, right? So when I proposed, and now, mind you, I had no plans on proposing. This was all just kind of off the cuff. We were sober, it's just crazy impulse stuff going on here, right? Oh.
Yep.
And so I proposed to her. We got to Bonanza, right? And typical Loko fashion, right? I was just like, I'm going to make some phone calls. And it was about 10:30 at this point, 10:30 at night. And making these phone calls to all these different chapels, trying to find one that's open. So eventually I get in touch with Chapel of the Bells. They say, hey, we close at 11. But if you wanted to go down to the marriage bureau right now and go get your license, we'll stay open for you, and you guys can get married tonight. And I was just like, oh, shoot, okay, well, let me call you right back. So I boogie in the gift shop, and, I pitch it to my wife, Kayla, and I was like, hey, you just want to go get married right now? And she kind of was like, what? I said, yeah, look, I found a chapel. They're going to stay open late for us. If you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, we can have a Vegas wedding right here, right now, tonight. And she goes, my mom's going to kill me, but yeah, let's do it. So we boogied on down to the marriage bureau, and, only in Vegas, okay, only in Vegas can you find a government office that is open until like midnight.
Yeah, no
Isn't that
kidding.
crazy?
That is.
Yeah. So we go down the marriage bureau, and there's homeless everywhere. And my dad was with us on this weekend, so we're renting these bikes. We we got these people all over the place downtown, and we're just like, I'm not sure we should all go in. Somebody needs to watch the bikes, you know. So my dad stayed out, watched the bikes. We went in, got our stuff, and came out and hit the chapel, and it was your atypical chapel Vegas wedding. It was quick, and it's like what you see in Vegas movies. And I think there was a scene in The Hangover, where they showed the different Vegas wedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just like that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And it was pretty awesome. We couldn't have been happier, and it just all worked out, And so we went after that. We partied, hopped on the plane, and the before and after pictures. Let me tell you what, we took like a selfie on the plane on the way down there, and we're all spunky, happy, excited for Vegas. Let's go. And the picture that is on the plane headed home is quite different. It was Vegas ate us alive.
I'm thinking before wedding pictures and now married pictures.
No, it was pretty epic. It was awesome.
That's funny because that's where I thought you were going with that. Oh, that's a great
story.
No, I
didn't. I never even thought about it that way, to be honest with
you. How long ago was that?
That was
2020. Never mind. You said right at the start of COVID. So 3 years ago. How long were you together before that?
Less than a year.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
You just knew it worked.
So it was pretty quick. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was happening. And it was fun. I love her to death. She's not only the best partner, but the best riding partner. As far as riding partners are concerned, she is a total badass.
Which is cool because, like you said, she had a bad experiences, mm-hmm. which will oftentimes ruin us to carry passengers. So you evidently treated her well in Vegas, well enough to get married, but now she enjoys riding, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, and not just any kind of riding, she enjoys the long distance riding. We were talking about, we were invited out to Georgia for the Hoka picnic out at Steve and Don Davis. Davis's place out in Georgia, and she was like, "Yeah, let's go." And we weren't able to make it out with scheduling and all that with babysitters, etc. But she was without any hesitation on the long ride, and I love it.
That's cool. So you guys actually did a run. You did the taco run, didn't you?
No, we didn't do the taco run. We went to Rendezvous out in Eagle Nest, and that was fantastic. Prior to that, we went out to Phoenix to see some of her family the year prior. And that trip, let me tell you, her longest ride up until that trip was like 200 miles in a day. And the first day of that trip, we went from home just north of Salem all the way down to Los Angeles in Redland, which is 1,012 miles. That day is what we did.
That's crazy.
And I pitched it to her. I said, "Hey, why don't we do a saddle store and just jumpstart the trip, get some miles under our belt, and just get down in that area so that way we can have a little bit more fun while we're there." And we're headed to Phoenix, but she was kind of like, "Yeah, all right, cool." And in my head, like, longest ride was only 200 miles on here. I don't know if you're gonna make it, but all right, you say let's do it, so let's do it. Give her the benefit of the doubt, and boy, did she not disappoint. Like I said, best riding partner I've ever had. She's fantastic.
That's awesome. So her limited riding experience, that's how we should say that, led her to you, and now you got her riding long distance. But where did it start for you? Let's reverse the clock a long ways.
Well, a long ways, yeah. I was never into dirt bikes. I was never into dirt bikes or crotch rockets or anything. My riding experience went straight to cruisers. I mean, ultimately it went straight to Harley, but at the time I was a 19-year-old kid and wasn't able to really afford a Harley at that point. So I started off on a Kawasaki Vulcan 500, little 500cc thing. And I was overseas. I was in the military. I went overseas 3 times. And on one of those trips, I came home and kind of got a wild hair and said, I want to ride a motorcycle. I'm going to figure out how to do all this. And got my endorsement. Did one of the state endorsed mandated classes, and figured out how to ride a motorcycle because I had no idea. And then I was like, sweet, this is awesome, and went down to a local shop. Actually, I sent you a picture from that same shop of wild ass seat pads there. But anyway, I got my first bike from that shop, the Kawasaki, and it was a little tiny thing. But man, I tell you what, I was so proud of myself. I was like, on cloud nine. I'm like, yeah, I'm on a motorcycle. I did it. This is awesome. A young kid, and I just started riding everywhere. And I did my first motorcycle rally, the Hell's Canyon Motorcycle Rally. It's out in Baker City, Oregon. And I think my first one, I think that would have been '08. So I've been 19, maybe 20 years old. And it just, everything that I did at that time, motorcycle related, I just fell more in love with them. And, the rally was an eye-opening experience for me, just seeing all the different motorcycles and the different, people and things that, aftermarket products you can buy to make the motorcycle yours, and, just all of these different things. And long distance riding was not even in my playbook, even remotely close to my playbook at that time. And, a long ride for me was like 150 miles. On a little 500cc bike, I was like, whew, I'm toasted. But, moving forward, I, got my first Harley. It was a Sportster, a 2003 Sportster. Big old 18-inch ape hangers on it. I love that bike. And, I bombed all over the place on that. Still, long distance riding was not in my playbook. And then eventually I just went full send and went from a Sportster to a Street Glide. And was like, yeah, no, I need bigger. I need, more luggage. I need all of the things that touring bikes have to offer. And went to an '09 Street Glide. And that was when I did pretty much my first long-ish distance. My mom was living down in the Bay Area at the time, San Jose. And I decided, wild hair, I'm going to go see my mom, So I hopped on the bike and went down and met her in San Francisco. And we, had lunch. And at the time, I was in a motorcycle club. And I got a friend of mine who was over in Reno for Street Vibration. And so the guy called me up while I was, in San Francisco with my mom visiting. And he said, hey, I'm over in Reno right now. You going to come over here? I was kind of like, sure, I guess. So I, finished up my visit with mom, and I hopped on the bike, rode through Yosemite, which was absolutely epic, by the way.
That's what I hear.
And, oh, man, it is a fantastic ride, and it's so beautiful. I can't wait to get Kayla down there on the bike. That's in our near future plans, so that's going to be a fun trip. But hopped through Yosemite and dropped down into Reno, partied hardy and headed back home eventually after that. But that was pretty much my first long distance-ish ride, or the longest ride for me at the time. But the saddle store that my wife and I did, that I was just telling you about a few minutes ago, that was pretty much what kind of kicked off the long distance thing for me as it is now in terms of the Hoka Hey. And for me, challenges are a thing. I enjoy challenging myself and, becoming better, whether that's improving a skill or gaining new skills or, new experiences, so on and so forth. And with that saddle sore, it was, at that time I was like, well, shoot, I don't know if we can pull this off, but we're going to give it a go. And we pulled it off. And the thought to myself was, okay, well, what's next? The next challenge. And I saw some little snippets on Facebook of the Hoka Hey. And I remember seeing the Hoka Hey a couple years prior and, long distance not really being in my ballpark at the time, thinking, oh man, that's crazy. There's no way. But after, the saddle store, I got a little bit more serious about looking into it and, reading the description and, looking at the rules. And I'm like, okay, this is doable. It'd be challenging, but, that's the reason why it's called a challenge. So I went ahead and started working on getting everything lined up to sign up and, saw that we had to pick a charity. And I had been wanting to do a fundraiser or poker run or something along those lines for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation for years. And I was, in the motorcycle community, I was told, well, you can't do a fundraiser or a poker run or anything unless you're like backed by a group. Oh, okay. Which, come to find out, completely wrong. But
absolutely,
yeah. And so, I was just kind of pitching it to the, different groups or folks that I was involved with at the time, and nobody would back it. Nobody wanted to, they were like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great, and,
right?"
And they just never hear anything about it. I'm like, you know what, screw you guys. This isn't right. So, enter the Hoka Hey, and now I have kind of the medium, if you will, to do the fundraiser like I had wanted to. And the Wildland Firefighter Foundation folks, they are fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic missions. And when Kayla and I went down to Rendezvous, we went through Boise, which is where their headquarters is. So we made a pit stop. We went through Boise and stopped and visited with them. We planned it out in advance. Everybody was available to talk to and meet. It was a really good trip. Their headquarters is incredible. It's almost like a museum of just wildland fire history. It's beautiful. Part of it's designed like a lookout, that you would find in the forest, and you get to see a lot of cool features of wildland fire and its culture. So it's all there in Boise.
And it's cool because then they get to meet you and see what you're all about. And it's nice to try to present these things face to face instead of through an email. So they can actually
absolutely
kind of get the feel of your passion behind it.
Oh, absolutely. And I had already talked to Bert Miner, the director there. I had already talked to him about doing the Hoka Hey and picking them as the charity. And he just got some random phone call from a guy that wants to raise money for his nonprofit organization. So initially his response was like, okay, who are you? Because he didn't know me from Adam.
Right.
But, I explained to him my history in wildland fire, and, and he just heard the passion that I had in my voice, for both motorcycles and the wildland fire community. And he was convinced. He was like, okay, all right, yeah, let's do this. So what we had discussed at that time was, just a partnership. Like, hey, you guys already have the fundraising platform through your website. Is there a way that you can set up a web page specifically for this campaign, this fundraising campaign that I'm doing for the Hoka Hey? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. We can totally set that up. So through our partnership, they were able to set up the link that I share on Ride for the Families of the Fallen campaign that is, links directly to all of the fundraising that I'm doing for the Hoka Hey and the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. So all of that is through that link. It's all tracked separately. So it makes it extremely easy. And I don't, I don't have to go through, like a GoFundMe or, any of those other, third party stuff. It's strictly between the organization. The money goes straight to them. So there's no like intermediary. I'm just the talking head that, says, hey, donate to Wildland Firefighter Foundation. They're great. And it all works. It's a really cool relationship that we've developed.
It's cool to see when you want to work with somebody that wants to be worked with, how quickly things can turn around and things can happen.
Absolutely. And I'm liking how things are moving forward.
One thing you mentioned when you were talking there before the Hoka Hey comment was you rode with a club. And I remember reading in your bio a story of your first club interaction. You really should share that because I thought that was hilarious.
Okay. Well, going back to kind of the Hells Canyon motorcycle rally, my first rally back in '08, where I was, basically introduced to the biker culture. I wasn't just riding a motorcycle anymore. I was actually being introduced to the biker culture, right? I see all these patches everywhere. And being an 18-year-old kid, I'm like, all right, cool. I want some patches. Yeah, do it. Having no idea about the world that I'm entering, I get some motorcycle patches, motorcycle themed patches at the rally, at one of those patch booths or whatever, and have them sewn onto, the vest that I was wearing at the time. And it was nothing too crazy, or, it was just simply an eagle and a couple flags, and then a top and a bottom rocker that said "Live to ride, ride to live," right? Cliche.
Yep. Yep.
And so, I'm thinking like, yeah, I've got patches now. This is awesome. And 18, 19-year-old kid, I didn't have any clue, but I rocked them. I rode all over the place with those, and was getting involved in different poker runs, and this, that, and the other thing, fundraising runs for vets. And so this one particular time, there's a meetup at a rest area, and I think what that run was like an escort. I think that was an escort run. But in any case,
define an escort run for those that don't know. It's actually where they're like moving an officer or a police officer, right?
Correct. Yeah. Or a soldier coming home from overseas who has deceased, been killed in the line of duty, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I don't remember all the details of that particular run, but I do remember very vividly the interaction that I had. And the rest area was a meetup spot for this run, and then we were supposed to. There were some other bikes escorting up until that point, and then we were gonna, this group of bikes that were here, we're gonna take over from there and continue on. And so I get there. There's already a bunch of bikes there, different people, different patches, so on and so forth. And then this group of bikes rolls in, loud, proud, and fast, and I'm just going, oh man, what are these guys, and I'm just tootling around on my bike and, trying to BS with people, talk with folks. And this guy comes up, and he's a biker, in my eyes at that time, naive, 19-year-old kid or whatnot at that point. And I'm just like, oh God, this guy is a biker, And so he walks up to me. He goes, hey, are those club patches, or are you just playing dress up? and I look at him with wide eyes, and I just kind of like, they're not club patches. He's like, all right, so you're just playing dress up then, huh? And I look back at him again. I was like, I guess. He goes, all right, and he walked away.
That's so funny.
And it was really interesting to me because at the time, I didn't know who these cats were, but I saw a bunch of patches on his front, and as he walked away, I saw three patches on his back, and I just remember seeing this little diamond on the front of his vest that said 1%, and I'm just kind of like, what is that about 1%? What does that mean? And so moving forward, I got done with that run, and I immediately went to a leather shop where I had become friends with the owners, and they were bikers. There was a biker leather shop, and I said, okay, this is what just happened. School me up. Explain to me what just happened to me.
Right.
And so I learned about the world of motorcycle clubs, and what that 1% patch meant, what all of these different things mean, and 3-piece patches, 1-piece patches, all of the different stuff. And I got an education in motorcycle clubs, and it was quite intriguing to me. And come to find out that, the gentleman that had an interaction with me, he was the president of that particular club in this area. and it was very interesting. And, a month later, after I started, being around motorcycle clubs, I got introduced to him officially, and, know him to this day and know of him to this day.
Did you remind him of this encounter?
I did. He did not remember. Wasn't a real big surprise, but
no, not at all. Because I'm sure that that's the lifestyle, and you're just another dress up guy, and he doesn't remember exactly. it. But it's funny that it made such an impact on you.
Oh yeah, I'll remember that for the rest of my life, and every time I see this guy, it was one of those things that I remember, and I actually got to ride his bike, which was really amazing for me, being kind of the first man that like I had an interaction with from a club, and getting to know him, like I appreciated who he was, and the love that he had for motorcycles and his clubs himself. But it was crazy. It was a 90s Softail with a Kickstarter and a suicide shift. And we were at the club that I was in. We were at this event where it was just outside of Salem. It was just kind of like a biker games event, bite the hot dog, do the serpentine through the cone, slow race, that kind of stuff. And we were just kind of, BSing between events or whatnot. And I was, talking to him. He happened to be there, and I was like, man, that bike is so cool, man. How do you ride that? Tell me what it's like riding, a suicide shifter. And he's like, well, you just foot clutch and then you shift it with your hand, and what, you want to try it? I was like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, you want to try? I was like, yeah. So I hopped on his bike, and I rode it down the field that we were doing the bike games in and back, and it was pretty awesome. And I have plans on building something similar in the future.
I always wondered on the foot clutch what that would be like, stopping and taking off.
Really, you just for stopping, it's easiest just to put it in neutral.
Sure.
There's a lot of shifting involved, a lot more than with a hand clutch.
Yeah.
You just pop it in neutral and then come to your stop. But yeah, getting going takes some getting used to. It is significantly different than a hand clutch. But my first time, we were in a field, right? So it wasn't like it had real good traction on asphalt. And I let the clutch out, the tire kind of kicked out, and off I went real quick. But yeah, it takes some getting used to. I didn't take the time to get fully accustomed to it, but I got a little taste, and I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, having a little bit of a forgiving riding surface would certainly help, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you were to fall, it was whatever. I'd be more worried about him being worried about his bike than me falling.
So the first name that you had, you go by Loko now. What was tell us the story about the first name.
That first name was Klingon, and the club that I was around. So back up to when I got my education about motorcycle clubs from the owner of the biker leather store, I said, teach me, right? And, there was only so much he could say, really. A lot of people, in terms of motorcycle clubs, you can research them on the internet, you can, watch TV shows about them, whatever. But if you really want to know about motorcycle clubs, good, bad, or indifferent, you got to be around them. You got to experience them, because you can watch shows and documentaries and all that, but it's not. I won't say it's inaccurate, because they are documentaries. But
wait, so Sons of Anarchy is not real?
No, Sons of Anarchy is very not real, very very fake. However, entertaining.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your story. I was just caught off guard. I'm so floored that show is not real.
Are you? Are you really? No, you got to be around motorcycle clubs, to be able to have, a full knowledge, full opinion, all of that, just as anything else. some people just in general don't think bikers are delinquents. Are we? Yeah, probably. But we're good people. And he decided he was just going to take me around. He was going to take me around and meet a few of the different clubs that were in our area. And I met folks from 1-piece patch clubs to 3-piece patch clubs, 1% clubs. I met a bunch of different folks, and there was finally one club that I interacted with well. It was a club made up of all veterans, and being a vet myself at the time, I was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna hang around these guys, and thus I became a hang around, which is kind of the first step in motorcycle club. A journey into a motorcycle club is just meeting them and becoming a hang around, getting to know people. And once I became a hang around for this club, I never left. I was there at every meeting, every event. I was there 100%. And one of the guys came up to me one day. I remember very vividly. Again, hey, come here. He goes, Tim, come here. I was like, all right. So I come up to him, and he goes, I'm gonna start calling you Klingon. I was like, why? He's like, you're not leaving. We're trying to run you off, but you're not leaving.
That's funny.
Because at that point I was a 20-year-old kid, and I was trying to make a point. I was trying to make a point, like, hey, I want to be a part. I want to be a member in this club, and I'm showing you that I'm sticking around. And it worked. I got my name and was invited to prospect, and showed them that I was a damn fine prospect. And at the time, I was the rules were that nobody can be a member unless they're 21. And I got patched in 4 days prior to my 21st birthday.
Wow,
something along those lines.
That's
but
crazy.
Yeah.
So how did you get the name go from the name Klingon, rather? How did you get the name Loko?
So moving forward, that was, motorcycle club. There was a different time in my life. I had taken a break from bikes for a little while, and coming back into motorcycles, and, I'd running with a different crowd, decided that I was going to, relinquish the name Klingon. Not that anybody wants it, but, I decided
somebody
that
might.
I was,
Some
maybe.
Trekkie gone biker.
But I just decided, I want to start fresh. I just want to forego that name. I'm running with different folks, and I don't want to have any part of that particular lifestyle anymore. And I decided I'm not going to go back. So I'm just waiting. I was just waiting for the new names. Whether it came from somebody in the motorcycle community, someone else, didn't really matter. I was just waiting. And because you don't name yourself, right? Nobody names themselves,
right?
In terms of a road name. But I was, and this just happened this year. I think back in like January or February. I ride to work, damn near every day. I ride damn near every day, and rain, shine, cold temperatures, doesn't matter. I am at work. These guys that I work with, they know I ride, and, rode in that morning. It was a nice morning. No big deal. Dry. But a storm had moved in during the workday, and it had turned into a monsoon. And we've got this hill on the interstate over here that will go up and then drop into Salem, into the valley where Salem's at. And I was going up that hill, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was just bumming in the rain trying to, just get home. And I had passed one of my coworkers. He's a Spanish speaking guy, so he's got a real heavy accent.
Sure.
And, I just passed him like he was standing still. I was gone. And I get to work the next day, and he goes, man, you passed me yesterday on the highway, man. You crazy. I'm going to start calling you Local Rider. And I was like, there it is. There it is. And he started calling me Loko. And I was just like, you know what? I like that, dude. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna use that. You good with that? And he's, yeah, whatever, man. So,
That's awesome.
well, yeah, it was just, a simple, and I thought it was pretty fitting for, the conditions that I ride in, for the amount that I ride compared to, most people, long distance riding folks excluded from that category. But I think we're all a little loco, 100,000 miles in 100 days. Hopper's nuts, man.
That's for sure.
Like,
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And the nice thing about the LDR community is that, we're all doing it for good causes. Almost every single one of these, long distance rides are for charity in some way, shape, or form. And I love that.
You kind of talked about, you found the Hoka-Hey, it called to you, but my question is always why? Why do you want to do the Hoka-Hey?
Why do the Hoka-Hey? For me, it's the medium in which I raise money for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. But, seeing the challenge that is the Hoka-Hey initially, I was like, I want to try that. I want to see if I can do that. Hearing about these stories of, folks, going down, some of them, unfortunately, pass, and it's terrible. But, the ones that, go down, get hurt, get back on their bike and continue are just total badasses, hearing the stories about that. And it was just like, I want to see if I can do that, and compete, if you will, with some of the best riders in the world. And having met some of them at Rendezvous, it's a big difference in opinion now for me. Whereas before it was just, I want to do that. Challenging. I think I can do that. Having learned everything that I have up until this point, it's now, there's a certain kind of reverence to it now for me, where, Hoka-Hey means a lot more than just the name of a challenge, or, it's a good day to ride. To me, there's more family to it. Having met, a bunch of the folks, how family oriented, how friendly and welcoming everybody is. It's community, it's a family oriented community. And, I just, even not having finished or attempted yet the Hoka-Hey, I feel connected, just by my limited experience and meeting everybody that I have. Why I want to do it, to answer that question, is, it's part of the community that I aspire to be part of. And I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try my damnedest, and I'm going to learn a lot, both, between now and the start and during. I mean, I'm under no illusions that it's going to be easy, and let's see what I can do, see what I'm made of, and raise money for a great charity in the process.
Do you have any goals in line or in conjunction with the Hoka-Hey?
Finish.
That's a solid goal. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. I mean, I've got no aspirations to be first, or even be an elite finisher. I don't, if it happens, awesome, cool. But I'm staying humble, and just reminding myself, like, hey, this is more challenging than you've ever attempted anything before. So you just, mind your P's and Q's, focus on riding day to day, and, focus on getting home. And I've got some plans for next year, and not just the Hoka-Hey in general, but, everything leading up to and after even. It should be an epic year, with everything involved.
Well, it will be for sure, and I can't wait to follow it. I see we're getting very down there on time. Was there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't?
Anything else that I want to talk about? I think we touched on a lot of it. I'm just really honored to be, welcomed into the long distance riding community. Everybody's been really helpful in answering questions. You included, Craig, and I'm really thankful to have met the folks that I met, and everybody's kind of iconic. They all have their own thing. For example, when we went down to Rendezvous, we stopped at the brewery, for the meet and greet, and met up with Valerie Stewart and Craig Tooley, not Johnson, and met up with them and met them for the first time, and we were actually staying with them down there at the house that they rented, and just completely welcoming, totally awesome people. They're also from Oregon, so it was really nice just to have some friends from the home state, and come to find out, when we got there and we were just kind of BSing after a long day of riding, we come to find out Riot was going to stay there at the same house, and Shell also was going to be there, and not Paco, Larry.
Yeah.
So these names that I'm hearing, I'm like, no kidding. We didn't get to meet them, not only meet them, but stay in the same house, be able to BS. And,
Right.
I was really excited, and so we get done with the meet and greet, and we decided, okay, well, let's roll into town. Go to the main event, and see what's happening there. It was already getting dark at that point, and so we roll into town, and we see a bunch of bikes in the parking lot. I'm like, okay, cool. So we roll in, and what I was saying about everybody's kind of got their thing. I see Twister's bike, and I know it's Twister's bike because of her windshield, and then I see Riot's bike, and then right behind there I see them, and I like lean back to my wife. I'm like, babe, there's Riot. And that's Twister. And there's Hopper right there too. Holy crap! It was really cool. And I don't know. I was excited. I felt like a little kid. Just excited to see role models and moving forward and meeting them, getting to know them. It's been awesome. And like I said, just the community is so welcoming, and I'm really thankful for that. And I hope at someday there'll be some other rookie that I'll be able to welcome into it too, and just kind of pass it on and keep the spirit alive, and I'm all about it.
Yeah, that's how it works.
And eventually meet you too, Craig.
Oh, we'll connect somewhere for sure.
At some point, at some time, you're a busy man.
We'll connect somewhere for sure. That leads us to my favorite part of the show, where we get the questions, the 5 questions. I know you're familiar with them. And if you've listened to all the shows, which I think you have, you will probably have prepared answers to all of them, but I'll still catch you off guard. How's that?
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't thought about them and potential answers, but let's see what you got.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot. So, again, of course, I've had to add questions because that's what I found early on was people had planned answers, and I didn't want that. So now they're just random. I put them all on a reel, and actually when we connected right away this morning, that's what I was doing, was randomizing the questions and picking the 5 out of the 20. So here is question number 1. What do you believe is true, even though you can't prove it?
I feel like there's always somebody watching out for us. And it's not even a religious thing, it's somebody, something, me personally, I'm not really a religious man, but, I do refer occasionally to the motor god, and, it's just, my take on the spirituality portion of things. And just, keeping an eye on us, watching us on the road, giving us lessons in hardship, while we're on the road. Road gremlins as they were, those are lessons, what not to do next time, or, some things are just unavoidable and there's a lesson to be learned from it. Ride slower, get more lights, there's all kinds of different things that can come and be taught by whomever's or whatever is is watching over us. I can't prove it, but there's something there.
Fair enough. Question number 2. What is at the top of your bucket list?
Well, Craig, you're the first person to hear it other than my wife. I want to get to the point where I can be part of the 100K club. And that is most certainly on my bucket list, right at the top. And I'm working towards making that the easiest that I can, I suppose. Just setting up my bike, working out logistics of tracking and, all of the different things. And it just consequently is aligned with preparing the bike for the Hokahay, and everything's gonna line up hopefully. And I may be looking at an attempt at it for 24. I'm not committed to it yet, but I'm hoping for it. We'll see if I can get everything in line and ready to go for it.
Well, good luck.
Yeah,
That's a pretty elite group.
Yep, and it's a lofty goal for sure. But like I said, I like to challenge myself.
That's good. That leads me to question number 3. So, question number 3. Do you have a quote that you live your life by or that you think of often?
Memento mori. Memento mori, and it basically means remember death. And, it sounds morbid, really, but moreover, it's, similar to, it's a good day to die, in Hokahay. It's kind of, I don't know, I guess the Latin version, if you will. But prior to finding the Hokahay, I thought to myself and used memento mori. And at any time, we can leave this earth. You know what I mean? At any time, we can pass away for any reason, whether it's, walking and tripping, knocking our head, to just simple, heart attack, whatever. So treat others in a way that you'd want to be treated and remembered, and, live your life honorably, because, love your family, because any time can be your last. So that's something that I constantly try to remind myself, just treat others kindly.
That's great. Question number 4. I don't know if you read books or deal with books or do any of that, but question number 4 is, what is the book or books that you have given most as a gift?
Whoa. That's a curveball. I don't know. I mean, I don't really give books as gifts. I mean, I bought my kids a Harry Potter book set one time, so I guess Harry Potter? Because I just, books are not something that I consider when thinking about giving somebody a gift. I don't think it's,
Yeah, fair enough.
Harry Potter.
Question number 5 and your final is, what is your favorite documentary or movie?
Favorite documentary or movie?
And not favorite of each, just, whatever's your favorite.
Yeah. Man, that's such a hard one. I don't know. I'm a big movie buff. I like a lot of different movies, but if I were to have, classify it as a favorite, maybe one that I've watched the most, that would most certainly be Top Gun. The first one.
Sure.
It's the acting is terrible, but it's a fantastic movie.
You mean it's not real?
What's that?
You mean it's not real? That wasn't a documentary?
Again, just like Sons of Anarchy, it ain't real, Craig. Newsflash.
Man. Oh, that's great. So that's the 5 questions. Do you have any last final words or last parting words for the show, for the listeners?
Just thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode and listening to me, talk and, check out the Ride for the Families of the Fallen Facebook page. Follow the campaign. If you feel like donating, donate. It's all for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. The Facebook page and the campaign itself is just the journey leading up to the Hoka Hay and just the fundraising involved with that. And if anybody feels like reaching out, saying hey, feel free. Tim Loko Dickerson on Facebook, and that's pretty much the gist of my social media. The rest of the Twitter and the YouTube and all that. I'm not super active on all that, but that's where you can find me.
Cool. That's actually was my next question, is where we can follow you. So Tim Loko Dickerson on Facebook. Also, I will, in the show notes, I will post a link to your Facebook page and then also to your fundraiser page as well. So that way you don't have to listen and remember that. You can actually just scroll down into the show notes and find them there. So we'll do that for sure. Folks, if you like what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You can follow the adventures on Facebook or Instagram by looking for The Real Wild Ass. Of course, I am Wild Ass Craig. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. And of course, thank you, Tim, for your service to our country. Thank you for our freedoms, and especially thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Craig.